countdown run. 2 seconds, 1 second. Good evening and welcome to Latrobe City Council's council meeting, which is being held at the Moe Town Hall. Tonight's meeting will be held with councillors and guests joining us in person and virtually. I'm pleased to welcome Deputy Mayor Councillor Sharon Gibson, Councillor Potter, Councillor Lund, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan and Councillor Howe, and would also welcome our CEO, Mr Stephen Piasanti, and our executive team. We now move to the recognition of traditional owners, and I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting here today on the traditional land of the Barakalung people of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation, and I'd pay my respects to their elders, past and present. If there are any other elders present, I'd also like to acknowledge them. We now move on to some housekeeping matters. We conduct our council meetings under the governance rules currently in place. We welcome all members of the public attending, both via the live stream and in person. I thank you for respecting protocols of the meeting, which ensure that we can extend the appropriate courtesy and respect throughout our meeting tonight. If councillors could ensure they raise their hand if they wish to speak so I can see it. Remain seated to speak directly into the microphone to ensure that all can be heard within the room and via the live stream. And when voting, raise their hands and leave it raised until I've called their name. We'll now move to apologies and leaves of absence. And the only apology we have tonight is from Councillor Barnes. Our next item on the agenda is item 3, is the adoption of the minutes, commencing on page 4 of tonight's agenda. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Pugsley?
Happy to move.
Councillor Pugsley is moving. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gibson?
Happy to second.
Do I have any opposition? Councillors, do you wish to address the motion?
Yes, just briefly, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move the minutes as they are true and correct, and it is just a procedural motion. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson, did you want to address the motion?
I think it's all been said.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillors, will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself, and Councillor Lund, and I declare the motion carried unanimously. We move on to item 4, declarations of interest. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Campbell.
Yep, in confidential item, sorry, I didn't write it down, it's 15.1B.
Yep.
It hasn't got the ABC or in there, and also the Crosses Road 15.5.
No worries, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillors, any other conflicts of interest? Councillors, I have one at item 10.2, which is the GRIS PRG, which I've previously explained. And just for the sake of clarity, I have an interest but no conflict on item 8.4, which is the Regional Precincts and Partnership Program funding. It does mention Lions, but it no longer affects them. Councillors, any other conflict of interest before we move on? All right, I'll now move to acknowledgements. Councillors, are there any acknowledgements this evening? Councillor Pugsley.
I would just like to acknowledge the fabulous job that both the Moe and the Newborough RSLs did on Friday for Anzac Day.
Yep, thank you for that. Any other councillors wish to? Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a few acknowledgements here. I would like to acknowledge all of the Anzac Day ceremonies as well and the people who organised them. Specifically, I would like to mention the Yallourn North Organising Committee, Yallourn North Primary School and Yallourn North CFA for the wonderful work they all put into the Yallourn North Anzac Day service, and to the Morwell RSL sub-branch, Morwell Caledonian Pipe Band, Morwell Citizens Band and Morwell CFA, again for their wonderful efforts in putting on a beautiful service as always. And also to the Friends of the Traralgon Courthouse and the Traralgon Historical Society for their efforts in hosting events throughout the day in Traralgon. I would also like to acknowledge the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis on Monday the 21st of April. And I'd like to say that my thoughts are with Latrobe City's Catholic community and those across Latrobe City who are feeling this loss. I know Pope Francis leaves a very large legacy of great compassion, kindness and reform in his wake, and I just, again, my thoughts are with the Catholic community. And I'd also like to acknowledge that today is Workers' Memorial Day, and would just like to acknowledge all those who have been impacted by workplace deaths, all those families, everyone who's never made it home from a day's work. And I'd also like to acknowledge Gippsland Trades and Labour Council for once again putting on a memorial ceremony for Workers' Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Morgan. Any other councillors? Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I acknowledge all of the RSLs and those who took part in all the parades. I'd also like to acknowledge how the amount of the public that actually came out and supported the RSL and Anzac Day. I know personally from Newborough and Moe, the numbers were huge, so much more greater than it has been for a number of years. And, you know, I think it's really great that the community taking the time to acknowledge Anzac Day. Thank you.
Councillor Pugsley.
On a lighter note, I would like to acknowledge our fabulous skate fest that we had in our Moe CBD recently over the school holidays, and I would like to acknowledge the amount of work that our council officers must have put in to create that event, and also Pascal, our local skate shop. I believe that he put in a fair amount of work into that as well. It was an absolutely fantastic event. It was just so nice to see our CBD activated in such a positive way with so many families enjoying the sunshine in the skate park. I'd also like to acknowledge the traffic school event that Councillor Gibson and I, my partner in crime, had the pleasure of attending that as well. She's a bit of a sporty one, this one, with her bike and her gear. But for both events, it was just so lovely to participate in and see so many people and families actually able to enjoy these things during the school holidays. So thank you for everybody that put in the hard work to make these events happen.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillors, any other acknowledgements? Councillors, I'd like to make one, and that's the passing of Laurel Sampson, OAM. Laurel was part of the first Traralgon Scout Group. She spent 60 years as a Scouts volunteer. She met her husband, Greg, when she was in Scouts. Just through catering alone, she raised over $250,000 for the first Traralgon Scout Group. She's been an instrumental member, or has been an instrumental member of the Victory Park committee that operated for council for well over my time on council. She was always there, and unfortunately she passed away, and it's left a huge hole in the local scouting organisation. So I'd like to pass on my condolences to her family and to the first Traralgon Scout Group. And as Councillor Morgan has done, I'd just like to reach out to my fellow Catholics and pass on my condolences on the passing of His Holiness, and pray that we get somebody able to fill his boots. All right, councillors, we've done acknowledgements. We will now move on to the next item tonight, which is a public participation where we hear from members of the community. Public question time. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to lodge a question to be answered at the council meeting to clarify issues of public interest. Eligible questions received in writing by 12 noon, one business day prior to the council meeting, will be responded to by the CEO. For tonight's meeting, we have received one question from the community, and I'll pass that on to the CEO to deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the question is from Mr. Damien Andrews, and it goes as follows. So referencing governance rules 2.2, 55.1.2, 18.2 and section 92HI of the Local Government Act 2020, would Council consider including in its monthly meeting agendas, a table listing official meetings from the previous month for which councillors were invited and their attendance or apologies recorded to help improve transparency and accountability to ratepayers? So in response to that, and by way of background, I can advise that the governance rules do prescribe the procedures governing the conduct of council meetings and delegated committee meetings, as these are formal official meetings of councillors. The open agendas and minutes for council meetings, as everybody would know, are publicly available on council's website and in our service centres. Council has no delegated committees at this point. However, it is proposed that the new Road Facilities and Place Namings Committee will be a delegated committee if endorsed by Council. If adopted by Council, the open meeting agendas and minutes of those will also be made available to the public. Council has established or is a member of a range of advisory and external committees. It is not proposed to list these meetings in the council meeting agenda. That's the response to the question, Mr. Mayor and councillors.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our public speakers. There are 6 members of the public who are registered to speak at tonight's council meeting. To those people speaking, we'll ask you to come up to the lectern at the front of the raised area, I would guess you would call it. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we ask you to wait to see if there are any questions from councillors before you leave. Our first speaker tonight is on item 8.1, Draft 25-26 Budget Preliminary Approved and Public Exhibition, and 8.2, Draft Revenue and Rating Plan 25-26, and that's Mr. Alan Burton. Is Alan here? Alan, if you'd like to come up to the lectern, you'll see a counter that will count down your 3 minutes for you. And if you can just hang around, we'll ask any questions. You'll hear a little, just to give you a warning, you will hear a little bell, 30 seconds out, and then when your 3 minutes is up. Thanks, Alan.
No worries, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is Alan Burton, as Dale has just mentioned. I'm the Secretary of the Dalkeith Heights Residents Association. What I've come to speak tonight to you about is the draft budget papers. I viewed them, and it concerns me that you may not have been able to identify that there is a serious inequity with the Latrobe City Council's rating system as it applies to retirement and lifestyle villages. Clearly, our council are collecting rates for services that they do not provide to the villages. Services such as maintenance of paths, roadways, street lighting, nature strips, water and power infrastructure, and to mention a few, are typically covered by rates for the broader community, whilst the villages manage their services internally and charge the residents directly. This means, whilst our council does not have to pay out anything for services in the village, we are paying twice for the services that our council provide to the broader community, but do not provide to the villages. How would you feel if this applied to you? A recent request for a Latrobe City Council traffic engineer to visit our village to give guidance on our traffic signs and road markings was stopped by a manager in the council office. This clearly demonstrates that our council is not interested in providing us with any services we are paying extra for in our rates. It is obvious why council does not want to provide services to the villages, as if we were to come to some arrangement to have the council provide the same services as the broader community, it would increase council expenditure by around $240,000 per annum for Dalkeith Heights alone. The introduction of a 25% differential rate for villages would only cost the council around $47,500 per annum for Dalkeith Heights alone, which I am sure you would agree is a much better option. On top of this, our council is collecting rates from 158 units in Dalkeith Heights, where the property sizes would be equivalent to no more than 80 properties in the broader community. The 2 members of Parliament for our council area did not want to get involved in this issue, but managed to put into writing that they sympathise with us but the MP for the Maroondah Council, who was approached on the same sort of line down there in the Maroondah Council, he had the strength to state in writing that it is senseless not to correct the inequity that applies to the rates for retirement and lifestyle villages. What we need is for our councillors to make the only sensible decision that clearly stands out in this case, which is to approve a 25% differential rate for villages to remove the extreme inequity that the current rating system causes, the doubling up of costs to village residents for the services that the council does not provide. I am sure you understand that no one likes to pay for a service that they do not receive. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Mr Burton. Councillors, any questions? No? Thank you, Mr Burton.
Thank you.
No worries. Councillors, our next speaker is on the same two items, item 8.1, draft budget, and 8.2, draft review and rating plan 25-29. It's Mr Graham Elliott O'Hara. Is Graham here? Graham, same thing, come to the lectern. We'll give you 3 minutes, ballot 30 seconds to go, and if you can wait for any questions, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, council staff, thank you for this opportunity. Differential rating. If I can just, it was introduced for the Valuation of Lands Act 1960, and it's an opportunity to attempt to repair an inequity that does exist within this rating system that we are living within. It is not a discount, it's an attempt to balance out an inequity. That's very important. Council's opportunity, due to the massive residential land development within the city's boundary, thus extensive rate revenue growth, to seriously consider, along with Council's Finance Department's assistance obviously, the introduction to the following differential rate for self-supporting retirement villages. The inequity, low council input. I mean, they don't need to look after their roads, their footpaths, their lighting. It's all self-funded. The rateable assets under a symbol, the heavy concentration of CIV rateable assets under similar formula as normal house block residents. That's the inequity that does exist. It's a concentration of assets in a smaller area compared to a residential block. Number of houses in a street, for example. Which moves on to the retirees living within these villages, their high cost of living they're faced with today. They've paid their taxes and dues all their total working life, and a differential rate which can be between 10 and 25% is an opportunity that would be of great assistance to them. The other differential rate requirement we feel is for full commercial primary producing farms, which are food producers, and we already have a 25% Latrobe City farm rate differential we are living within at the moment, and we do appreciate having that. I'm a member of the farming community. So, councillors, I would suggest that you seriously consider it's a great opportunity for a differential rate to be applied to these retirement villages, especially the self-funded ones. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr O'Hara. Have we got any questions, councillors? Thank you, Mr O'Hara. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Councillors, our next speaker on item 8.1, draft budget preliminary approval, and 8.2, draft revenue and rating plan 25-29, is Mr Benito Gazzardi. Ben, if you'd like to take the stand. 3 minutes, you'll hear a bell at 30 seconds and a bell when time's up, and if you can hang around for any questions if there's any. Thanks, Ben. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, councillors, for the opportunity for the previous speakers and myself to present our view and desire to encourage councillors and the executive staff to really seriously consider this application of 25%.
Is it short-term only?
Yes, I believe so.
And that doesn't meet the definition of rooming or boarding house?
That's correct.
Yep,
Thank you.
no worries. Councillors, any other questions? All right, thanks, Mr Bergen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, councillors.
Now, councillors, just to let you know, while the recordings are still working, the live streaming has stalled, and to meet our guidelines, we're going to need to take a break while the live stream is fixed. So we'll take a short break and be back as soon as our IT team have it under control. And to the gallery, if you'd just like to wait round or grab a cuppa, we'll let you know when things are back on track. And we'll welcome our live stream back. Councillors, we're back on line again, so we'll continue the meeting. Our next speaker on item 10.1, Quarterly Budget Report, March 2025, is Margaret Guthrie on behalf of the Churchill and District Community Association. Sorry, Mrs Guthrie. Councillor Lund, sorry, I didn't realise you weren't back yet. Good. Mrs Guthrie, 3 minutes, bell at 30-second mark and bell at the end of 3 minutes, and we'll ask you to hang around in case there's any questions. All yours.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks, councillors, for your time and attention. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to elders and any First Nations people that may be present here tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of Churchill and District Community Association to plead, urge, implore that you adopt the officer's recommendation in the quarterly budget report to allocate $650,000 from the unallocated cash reserves for the purpose of constructing a public toilet in Churchill. It's really, really important, not just to people who live in Churchill, but all the people that utilise Churchill Shopping Centre. Residents of Ballara, Yanar South, Driffield, Gerlang Junction, Hazelwood South, Hazelwood North, all those housing properties that are scattered around Churchill. All those people come to Churchill Shopping Centre, and to not have a public toilet open during shopping hours is appalling, because it has led to the Churchill Shopping Centre precinct being used as a public urinal. I'm sorry, I don't like talking about things like this, but I myself have witnessed bus drivers urinating in the little laneway between the Latrobe Community Health Service site and Churchill Town Hall, adjacent to the opening of the men's shed. I have witnessed people getting off the bus and on a Saturday afternoon, and then, because there's no public toilet, squatting down between parked cars to urinate because they are in desperate need of a toilet. I have witnessed parents shopping with their children on a Friday night and then going to the fish and chip shop and a little kiddie wetting their pants outside the fish and chip shop because there is no public toilet for their parents to take them to. I could go on and on and on, but this is a really important issue to all the people that live in and around Churchill. In August 2024, we conducted a hard copy survey on our market day, about 100 responses. Overwhelmingly, people said the number one issue in Churchill is the provision of public toilets. We've done petitions, we've done all sorts of things to bring this to council's attention and to try and get a public toilet that's open during shopping centre hours. We need it. And you now have an opportunity to allocate the money and progress this. The delays we've experienced have always been about, oh, we don't have enough money, oh, in time, oh, we'll consider it at the next budget, oh, when we've sold this, when we've done that. It has gone on and on and on. And tonight you have an opportunity to provide a public toilet in Churchill for the use of all the centre users, or you tell the people of Churchill and District that really you don't care about the fourth major town in Churchill. You don't care.
Sorry, Mrs Guthrie, have you got much longer to go?
I think you get my drift,
yep.
Councillors. So I'll stop now.
Thanks, Margaret. Hang on 2 seconds. Councillors, any questions for Ms Guthrie? Nope, you're getting out of it easy. Thanks, Mrs Guthrie. Appreciate you coming in. Councillors, our last speaker tonight is on item 10.3, Establishment of Road Facility and Place Naming Delegated Committee, and it's Mr Rob D'Souza Dorr. Rob, 3 minutes, bell at 30 seconds, and if you can hang around for any questions afterwards.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak tonight on this topic. I would like to speak to several points regarding the draft proposal which has been put forward. In particular, I'd like councillors to turn to page 1264, which is the start of the draft for the committee. In respect to 214, ensure that consideration of all naming proposals is consistent with the requirements of the road placing naming policy and the naming rules of Victoria. I'm not confident that councillors can do that or in a position to do that, because when we had recently on the 25th of March 2025 a Geographic Names Victoria training session at Traralgon, all the councillors were invited and none of them turned up to hear. If you're not familiar with the Victorian naming rules for places in Victoria, I can't see how anyone can be an effective member of this committee unless councillors have had their own separate training session. In respect to 223 and 226, I'm not too sure what is meant by the term or the organisation as appropriate. Perhaps this refers to private roads within the Latrobe City. I don't know, but it's not clear. After 2.8, I'd like to see another point mentioned, and that is the consideration of the committee for road and place signage for existing and future registered and unregistered geographic names within the Latrobe City. This is consistent with point 48 of the naming policy, which was adopted on the 2nd of September 2024, in other words, last year. I wish you to turn across the page to 3.5, where it says the co-option of members. It's not clear from the subsequent text that the co-opting of members actually means a committee member. If that is the case, can it be reworded to make it clear that the opting of a member is in fact mean an active committee member and not just a person who is sitting and participating with the committee? In respect to page 1266, I'd like to mention that in relation to 4.4, to me I would like it to read completely the opposite. I understand that confidential information should be kept confidential, but all information apparently before this committee is deemed to be confidential. I would prefer that the Mayor, that more transparency is available to the public, and that the Mayor declares what's heard. I also would like that on 6.3 on page 1268 to be rewritten to represent and state that the council will name streets and places for all people within the Latrobe City communities, not just the two that have been stated or implied. In respect to the delegation, the instrument of delegation, point 11, this is 1272 page, I believe that this policy can be becomes into force once it's executed. I am asking for it to be deferred until consideration is being given to the points that I'm raising tonight. There's nothing mentioned about the establishment of the progress.
Sorry, Mr. D'Souza, have you got much further to go?
No, not at all. The name bank. I would like this committee to become effective once the Chief Executive Officer is satisfied that the name bank is sufficient names for future names, and also that the committee has in fact been established by both councillors and also by any outside representatives. In other words, I'm asking for deferment of this delegated committee motion until such times these points are considered by councillors and officers and incorporated and amended for a future council to decide.
Yep, thank you.
Questions, please.
Yep, just hang on there 2 secs, Rob. Councillors, any questions? Yep, Councillor Gibson. For the CEO? Yep.
through you, Mr Mayor, to our CEO. The points that have been raised now, do you believe a deferral is needed, or it can be addressed when...
Mr CEO, over
Thank
to
you, sir. I
you.
might need to take some advice from Mr Ellis and get his perspective on it, given he's been more intimately involved with his team.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. I would have to say there was a number of questions there, and I think we would have to get the list and review them in detail and get back to Mr de Sousa.
Mr Mayor, if it's okay, can I make a suggestion that last year when I spoke at this topic and I raised several points, I was asked by one of the councillors or two councillors to put my comments in writing and submit it to you.
Yep.
Can I follow the same footsteps to you, and I'll address that to all the councillors and to the relevant general manager?
That would be a great idea, Mr de Sousa. That would be excellent if you don't mind. Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? No. Thank you, Mr de Sousa.
Thank you.
De Sousa, appreciate it. Councillors, that was our last speaker. There are no notices. We'll now move on to item 7, notices of motion, and there are no notices of motion on the agenda tonight. So we'll move on to item 8, strategic items for decision. Next on the agenda, there are 4 items in this section. The first of the items is 8.1, draft 25-26 budget preliminary approval and public exhibition, commencing on page 8 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a motion?
I'm happy to move this item.
Councillor Pugsley is moving.
Apologies.
Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Yep, Councillor Howes opposed. Bear with me, councillors. Opposed. How? Councillor Pugsley, would you like to speak?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move this item so it can progress to the next stage, which is community feedback. I would also like to acknowledge the huge amount of work that the council officers have put into this document.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Morgan, would you like to speak?
I'd like to reserve, if that's all right.
Reserved?
Thank you.
No worries. Councillor Howe, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Tonight I speak against the draft 2025-26 budget as presented due to the significant concerns I have about its long-term financial implications to the council. Specifically, I'm troubled by the decision to limit the rate increase to 1.5% rather than applying the full 3% allowable under the Victorian Government's Fair Go rates system. This decision has serious consequences for our city's long-term financial sustainability. By limiting the increase to 1.5%, we're reducing our revenue by $1.1 million for the 25-26 financial year alone. And over the next 10 years, this shortfall compounds to $11.9 million, funds we simply can't afford to forgo. To provide some context, in Council's May 24 submission to the local government's sustainability inquiry, we outline the financial pressures we're already under. Our costs consistently rise above CPI. Over the past 4 years, CPI has increased by 15.8%, yet our rates only rose by 7.75%. Meanwhile, our actual cost increase have gone closer to 25%. So that was from May last year, so it might be a little bit different now, but you get the idea. This means we're already struggling to fund the essential services we provide, maintaining our existing infrastructure and meeting the growing needs of our community. The closure of our coal-powered power stations have also diminished our revenue, with each closure costing us the equivalent rates of 1,100 households. Looking ahead at the 25-26, inflation is to be forecast between 2.75% and 3%. Construction costs are projected to rise by 4.5% and our employee costs by 4.2%, yet we're proposing a rate increase of only 1.5%. So for perspective, the average rate charge is here, excluding garbage, which is done as a cost recovery, and EPA charges, which is set by the state government, is $1,580. So that's the average rates this year. So an increase would add a fully 3% increase would add $47.40 annually, or 91 cents per week. The proposed 1.5 increase saves the ratepayer just $23.70 a year, or 46 cents a week. But that 46 cents a week saving is going to cost Latrobe City $1.1 million annually every year going forward. This will have a direct impact on our city's financial capacity now and into the future. It will leave councils with making difficult choices about cutting services, delaying renewals, or reducing maintenance standards. For example, we have a recreation needs assessment that prioritises upgrades and rebuilds to our sporting pavilions, sporting grounds and lighting. Currently, our top 4 pavilion projects is Gascon Park, Yanar Rec Reserve, Toners Lane, the baseball.
Much more to go.
I've got a little bit, unfortunately,
Yep.
but I think it's pretty important.
Yep.
And Northern Reserve Newborough. In previous years, we've been able to tick a few of these off as we go, but moving forward, we've got no funding allocated in this draft budget, and we'll be relying on either budget surplus or external grants. Likewise, for our Missing Links footpath program, I'll just sort of try and skip through a little bit.
If you can. Thanks, Mr. Councillor
If
Howe.
that's okay, thank you. As a council, our responsibilities are vast. We manage 890 buildings, including kindergartens, parks, halls, swimming pools, sporting facilities. We also maintain 1,500 kilometres of roads. With these budget constraints, we may soon be forced to reduce road maintenance standards, something no one wants to see. So I'll just go in summary here. Capping the rate increase of 1.5% offers minimal financial relief to those in need, but places significant and ongoing strain on council's finances. I would argue that we should look at focusing on enhancing any of our support programs and reviewing our hardship policy if we feel it's inadequate, rather than pass on a reduced increase for next year's rates. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Howe. Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just had a number of speakers talking to us about how they're finding it really hard to pay the rates. Now, what's before us and what we're voting on is to have it at 1.5% increase, yet there's opposition wanting 3%. Now, I also have been on council where the year before a council election, there was all councillors apart from 2 who voted for a 0% rate increase. Now, the only 2 who didn't was myself and then Councillor Middlemiss. Everyone else voted for it, and that was leading up to an election. But what we have put in place is a 1.5% increase instead of 3. We also have got a 0 increase on fees, charges for our community services, charges and leisure centres. Now, we all know that people are doing it really hard out there. Whether it's the oldies, the young ones, the families, everyone is doing it tough. There's a few who aren't doing it so tough, but the rest are. So I'm very happy to support this because we have ensured that we have put the rates up the minimum we can without slashing and burning services. Now, but I will take note about the, and it's not us, it's state government who are putting up the huge increase with the fire services levy and I can't remember the other one. Landfill, thank you. So while we're trying to cut the cloth according to our means, the state government aren't. I would suggest. But I would encourage my fellow councillors to support this, because we are trying very hard to ensure that we are listening to the people and trying our very best to ensure that it's not putting more people at risk and not being able to afford putting food on their table.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through you, I'd just like to raise some real concerns that I have around adopting or even putting this draft budget out to the community for consultation. I recognise that real cost of living crisis that people are going through at the moment, and it's affecting so many people in our community. And we have to be really mindful of those challenges that people are facing. However, I believe presenting this draft budget with only a 1.5% cap is financially irresponsible. I fully support the pursuit of efficiencies and savings where we can. That's just good governance. But we must remember that council is not a profit-making business. We're in the business of creating long-term public value. Everything we do should focus on delivering the best possible outcomes for our diverse and unique community. Going into the next financial year, trying to find savings of over $1 million will inevitably lead to cuts to services, to programs, to community support that people really rely on, cuts to those connections that people have with their communities. So looking into the future, we know 2 of our major power generation industries will shut down. With them, the significant rates and revenue they contribute to our community will also disappear. We're in a rare position at the moment. We know this change is coming, and we've been given the gift of time to prepare for the regeneration of Latrobe Valley. Yet this budget does a little to future-proof our community. If we don't apply the full 3% cap right now, we're not just missing an opportunity to invest in our future, we're locking ourselves into even harsher cuts further down the line. Under this budget, nothing will be set aside for the upcoming challenges. We're choosing short-term savings over long-term stability. And I understand that the rate increases can cause hardships, and I'm proud that our council has supported programs available for those who need them. But the savings offered in this budget equate to just $24 a property. For that very modest savings, the cost to the broader community will be steep. Essential services will be reduced, programs will be cut, and the operating hours will be slashed. So, you know, if we get this through and it goes to public consultation, I really urge everyone to read the draft budget really closely. Think about what those cuts will mean to you and how they will affect you. And speak up if you have concerns. Our future depends on the decisions that we're making here today. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against the motion? Councillor Lund.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Latrobe City's draft budget is out for, we're talking about releasing it for your say. So there's a few things that I want to cover off here, that if it is released, I'd encourage everyone to take a look, because this is your city, your service and your future. When you're reading it, I want you to ask yourself 2 things. Is this the budget you want, and is this the budget the community needs? I personally have some great concerns, and I hope I'm wrong, but some of those have already been spoken about by my fellow colleagues tonight. On the surface, it might look like a win. It could easily, but it could easily turn into short-term gain and give us long-term pain, and I'll explain why. Council's proposing a 1.5 rate rise, well under the state government's 3% cap. For the average household, it will save about $24 a year, and that's about 50 cents a week. This sounds good on paper, and for some, that small saving might be all that they want to focus on. But if you look a little bit deeper, there's a lot more to it. Setting a budget, whether it's for your household or council, isn't just about chasing savings, it's about managing impact. You wouldn't skip your car service or turn off your heating or cancel your insurance just to save $24 for a year, when you know that later on you'll pay for it. No insurance means one disaster, you'll get hit with massive bills. Skipping your car service could mean that you have bigger problems later. Turning off your heating, you might save $24, but you'll freeze and you'll become unwell, and then you'll be spending money on medical bills. We have a responsibility and obligation to thoroughly and carefully consider savings alongside impact for our community, and it never, ever should be one over the other. Over the next 10 years, that small, modest saving will add up to $11.9 million lost in revenue to our city. That's $11.9 million that we won't have to fix roads, keep our parks looking good, fund services that so many of our community rely on, upgrade sporting pavilions, for example, projects like Newborough Football and Netball Pavilion and Yennara Rec Reserve. These projects won't happen unless we somehow land election promises from the state or federal governments, and even then, we will struggle to contribute to our share. And it's not just the big stuff. Community support programs will tighten, services people rely on will be reduced, and if you're renting, don't expect that $24 rates. Don't expect that $24 rate saving, because the rates are paid by landlords, and it's highly unlikely they'll pass that saving on to you. If this budget is meant to help people doing it tough, I fear it misses the mark, and it actually places a heavier burden on the whole community. Importantly, it burdens future councillors and future council. They'll be left to pick up the pieces, facing even bigger problems. As I said, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel that the savings of $24 is short-sighted and pushes the pain onto others who come after us.
Much longer to go, Councillor Lund.
Very brief.
Yep.
Have a look for yourself. Review it with the critical mind. Consider the cost savings to the long-term impacts. And this isn't just about this year, it's about the next 10 years. Ask yourself, is this a fair budget? Is it a responsible budget? Is this really the future we want for Latrobe? We want to hear from you, we need to hear from you, and we need to know and hear loudly from our community about what they think about this budget and these.
Thanks, Councillor Lund. Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Morgan, you reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to speak again for this motion. While I echo quite strongly a lot of concerns that have been raised by my colleagues who have spoken against this motion, I think it's important for us to release this budget as drafted, as it offers an opportunity for our community to really have a say on a budget that has the potential to lead to quite long-term impacts to our community and our council as an organisation. I think that we, as a community, as a whole, everyone in Latrobe City, whether they're a ratepayer, whether they're a resident, whether they work here, have a business here, we all need to come together. We need to have a say on this budget. We need to have a say on a future for Latrobe City. And I encourage our entire community to read through this budget, to think critically about what this budget entails, what the impacts may be. As one of my colleagues mentioned, is it fair? Is it reasonable? What's the impact on our future as an organisation, as a city? What does this mean for our children, our grandchildren, generations ahead of us? When we are currently in a place of transition, we need to be thinking quite critically about what a reduced revenue means for this organisation, which has such a huge reach and impact on people's everyday lives, from roads to parks to preschools to maternal and child's health to performing arts to visual arts to skate parks to everything in between. There is so much that council does, and we need to think about how that will impact us, how that will impact our entire community. So again, while I share concerns that have been raised, I think the community needs to have a look, needs to have a say, and needs to be vocal about anything that they find is not fair, is not going to serve us well as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Pugsley, did you wish to close?
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. I would like just to state that we have worked quite extensively to come up with the 1.5 rate increase and have frozen fees and charges on our leisure services. There will be a cost savings to the residents, whether they are a ratepayer or not. They'll be able to hopefully afford to still give their children...
Much longer, Councillor Pugsley.
Just wrapping up now, sorry,
Yep.
I lost track of time. They'll be hopefully able to afford to let their child play basketball because we've frozen the fees for a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillors, we've had speakers on the item, so I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Gibson and myself. Those opposed? Councillor Potter, Councillor Lund, Councillor Howe. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on to item 8.2, Draft Review and Rating Plan for 2025-2029, Public Exhibition, commencing on page 107 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Howe is moving. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillors, if I don't get a seconder, the motion will lapse. Councillor Pugsley, bear with me. Councillor Howe moved, seconded Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Howe, would you like to speak?
Is there any opposition?
Oh, sorry. Do I have any opposition? No? Perfect. No
Question,
opposition.
no.
Question, yep.
Okay, through you to the CEO possibly.
Yep.
When this goes out, can it be the wording updated and it be in a simplified language, please?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Deputy Mayor, for your question. So yes, I'm comfortable to have the document reviewed and when it comes back to council have a simpler plain English version in terms of some of the words that are included in the document itself to make it simpler to read for the community.
Sorry, Councillor Lund?
Sorry.
Oh, no, all good. Sorry, I thought you were asking questions. Sorry, Mr CEO, back to you.
I think I've answered the question.
Yep, done. I thought
yes,
you had.
Councillor Gibson is the
Perfect.
short answer.
That answers the question. Okay, councillors. Do I have any opposition? No. Councillor Howe, would you like to speak?
I'll just briefly speak to it. Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. This is a requirement under the Local Government Act of 2020 as we're required to prepare and adopt a revenue and rating plan by 30th of June this year. But I think regardless of the legislative requirement, regular reviewing this plan is just simply good governance. While the plan doesn't set revenue targets, it does provide the strategic framework for how council calculates and collects revenue. It outlines the key decisions and guiding principles behind how council funds its operations and how that financial responsibility is shared between the ratepayers and users of council services and facilities. A core aim of this plan is to evaluate council's rating options under the Act and ensure that we have a fair and equitable rating strategy. So a couple of the key amendments in this draft is a recognition that our transfer stations are now funded through the way service charge. There's a change of payment options from the 26-27 financial year, moving to instalments only, and there's an update to the eligibility criteria for the farm rating differential. The plan also covers important considerations such as the valuation base to be used, the application of differential rates, special rates and charges, and the review of rate payments options and timelines available to council. It's quite a comprehensive document. It's a good read for a rainy Sunday afternoon, and I do look forward to hearing from our community on it. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Pugsley, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'll reserve, thank you.
Reserve? No. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Pugsley, we're back with you.
All right. I promise I won't take 3 minutes this time. I'd like to move this option as I believe this is a normal item of business that needs to progress through to the review and written submission stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Okay, councillors, we've had speakers, so we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Lund, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we move on to item 8.3, Community Engagement Policy, commencing on page 134 of the agenda. Councillors, Councillor Gibson, you're moving?
There is an alternate motion to
Moving an alt.
defer.
Yep, councillors, it's up on the screen now if you'd like to read it. I believe it was emailed out earlier to all councillors. Councillor Gibson, as it's an alternate, could you read it out for the councillors, please, in accordance with the governance rules?
Okay. The council defer consideration of the community engagement policy to a future council meeting in order for an updated version of the policy to be presented that is written in plain English and uses clear, simple and direct language that is easy for the reader to understand.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. You're moving. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Pugsley. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Yeah. Question?
Sorry, no, can I do a
Amended?
amendment? Thank you.
Yep, you certainly
I'm
can.
just wondering if we can do two versions of it so that we have an all-accessible version and we have a version. Just thinking about the final readers, and a lot of that is going to be council officers who won't need a simplified version perhaps, whereas the community, two versions, one an accessible version and one as it stands.
I'm just going to have to ask the CEO whether we're able to do that on a governance point of view.
So if it's a proposed, sorry, just have we had movers and seconded for this motion? Yes.
Yes.
So if it is a proposed amendment, it might be best to take an adjournment to write that amendment out that you're seeking to put forward, which would need obviously yourself as a mover potentially and would need a seconder. In terms of being able to share that more fulsomely with the council in terms of what the amendment actually is proposing to deliver, that might pay to, just if you wanted to, if that was acceptable, take an adjournment to actually write that up to have it presented. If it's minor amendments under the governance rules that are accepted by obviously the mover, what I'm hearing probably isn't a minor amendment. If it was just a minor amendment, it could actually be done through the as the motion is proposed. So given this one's already been moved and seconded, it would need, from what I'm hearing, a more substantial amendment, which is actually a formal amendment to the motion, which would need to be then put and debated.
Yep.
So,
all right, councillors.
Councillor Potter wished to pursue that, it would just require an adjournment, I think, to actually write that up.
How long do you think your officers will need to write one up, Mr CEO? 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
It was just a thought, to be quite honest, but just having those...
Councillors will take a break for 10 minutes and come back in 10 minutes' time, which would put it at 7:35. So I'll take a 10-minute adjournment, and Councillor Potter, if you can grab the CEO, and we'll get it done. And for those online, we will be back in 10 minutes, and those in the gallery, bear with us. Time for another coffee break. 6, 5, 4, 3. And good evening and welcome back to the Latrobe City Council meeting. I just wish to advise that Councillor Lund is an apology for the rest of the meeting. Councillor Potter, you had an amended motion?
Mr Mayor, I would like to withdraw that, please.
That's fine, no worries at all. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillors, we move back to the alt, which was put forward by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Pugsley. Do I have any opposition? No opposition. Do I have any councillor who wish to speak? Councillor Gibson, you wish to speak?
Just quickly to understand that, this is a procedural motion which is a deferral. We didn't put a date on it, but I would assume, rightly or wrongly, that it would come back within the month. And this is a very important document for our community. It is our community engagement policy. And if it's written in a way that not everyone understands, I don't believe that's the best way forward, considering it is community engagement. So this is a procedural motion to defer it so we can address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Pugsley, did you wish to speak or reserve?
Reserve at this time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Pugsley, we're back with you.
I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Gibson has said, that being that it is a policy that clearly outlines how we deal with the public, that it does need to be in plain English.
All right, councillors, we've had speakers, so we'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself, and those opposed and those abstaining. Councillor Morgan, thank you very much. That'll make the team happy. Thank you for that, councillors. I declare the motion carried. The alternate motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, we now move on to item 8.4, Regional Precincts and Partnership Program Funding, commencing on page 172 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Pugsley. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Do I have any opposition? Councillor Pugsley, would you like to speak?
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. By applying for this funding, I believe that it will be a cost-neutral way to further our master planning for the Traralgon Community Precinct. The funding being applied for is intended to cover consultants, field investigation studies and staff to help deliver the plan. This funding requires no financial contribution from council, therefore making it a wise decision for our CEO to put in our application to secure this funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Potter, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'll reserve, please, Mr Mayor.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Got to be quick. Okay. Look, I don't know. I reckon I could count on one hand how often we can put in for funding where we don't have to actually allocate any money. So I'm more than happy to vote in favour of this.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Potter, you're reserved.
It's a fantastic opportunity to get our master plan actually done with no cost to council, so it's fantastic.
Nice. Thank you, Councillor Potter. All right, councillors, we've had speakers, so I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself. I declare that motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we move on to item 9, statutory planning. Next on the agenda, there are two items. The first of the items is 9.1 Amendment C, 149, Latrobe Planning Scheme Review, consideration of submissions, commencing on page 214 of the agenda. Councillors, do we have a mover? Councillor Howe is moving. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan is seconding. Councillors, do I have any opposition? No. Councillor Howe, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, thanks, Mr Mayor. It's a requirement to review our planning scheme within 1 year of adopting the council plan. This motion seeks to endorse the next steps for the proposed changes under Amendment C149. The C149 gives effect to the recommendations of the Latrobe Planning Scheme Review. The changes are generally minor and apply across the entire municipality.
Yep.
Sorry, Joanne, look at me like I was speaking to the wrong one or something. There is a summary of all the recommendations on page 214, so I won't go through them all. But as far as community engagement, we did go out to the community, included 11 phone calls, 207 page reviews and 7 submissions. All the submissions were either supported the amendment, requested supported changes or raised objections that have since been resolved. So there are no unresolved submissions, so the motion can be passed tonight, allowing the amendment to proceed to the Minister of Planning for approval. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Morgan, did you wish to speak or reserve?
I'll speak. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very briefly, I think Councillor Howe has covered everything that needs to be covered, and it is just a requirement of the council to endorse this. So happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillors, we've had speakers, so we're going to put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move on to item 9.2, application for a certificate of compliance 416 Princess Highway, Troggan, commencing on page 1121 of the agenda. Councillor Campbell, are you moving? Just put your microphone on if you wouldn't mind, sorry.
I believe there's an alt that was distributed to us.
Yep.
I'll move that.
If we could get the alt put up on screen. And Councillor Campbell, could I just get you to read out the alt if that's possible?
Okay. That Council issues a certificate of compliance pursuant to section 970(1)(a) of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 for existing use rights for a residential building at 416 Princess Highway, Traralgon East, Lot 2, PS 330266.
Nice, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Gibson, I note you. Seconding. Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Okay, just wanted to, a couple of points that I had. The main source of income for the business has changed since 2020. In my opinion, the underlying function is still essentially the same. The rating of the property currently supports this. I believe that many businesses had to pivot during COVID to remain solvent because they weren't trading. And I don't believe that any business should be penalised for having to adapt, even temporarily, to be able to survive. For these reasons, I propose that we should vote to issue a certificate of compliance. And also there have been trading and there has been no opposition here tonight from any community members. So, yep, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Gibson, did you wish to speak or reserve?
Reserve, please.
Reserve. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Councillor Pugsley? Councillor Howe. I'll go Councillor Pugsley first, if that's all right. Councillor Howe, I'll come to you next. Yep.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, I would like to just state that as Mr Tim, who got up and spoke about the item, he did indicate that there is an on-site manager to resolve any problems quickly, that it is not currently a rooming house. I'd like to also state that that their average occupancy is 2 to 4 weeks or a couple of days, which is not unrealistic. I've been on a family holiday for 2 to 4 weeks. So I believe that all of those items go to speaking for the occupation of residency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Howe, you wish to speak?
Yes, I'm a bit torn on this one. So I'm sort of speaking for it and speaking against it at the same time. Makes sense, I'm sorry. I think the report shows that it hasn't clearly been used consistently as either a motel or a rooming house or a boarding house for 15 consecutive years, which is one of the key requirements under clause 63.01 of the Latrobe City Planning Scheme to apply. What you have to do is you need to put it down to its most accurate description. So when you look at the planning screen nesting diagram, the most specific use is either going to be one or the other. You can't really use boarding accommodation or something, residential building. They did get legal advice, which supports what the officers recommend. But saying that, since they've bought it, they've cleaned it up. It was an eyesore for so many years. They've cleaned it up. They're fulfilling a community use. So I'm just going to sort of sit on the fence until the end of the debate, I think, and just see. I can see both sides of the story, and it's a bit of a grey area. And I'm just not sure which way I'm going to jump yet. So thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Mayor.
No. Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Gibson, you reserved?
I did. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got splinters.
I don't usually do it.
No. Okay, thank you. Look, I remember there is another property that was in a similar position and they were given compliance. So I think it's unfair not to be consistent across the board. And I did meet with the proponent and heard firsthand what the plans are going forward. And yes, you're right, Councillor Howe, it has been cleaned up, but compared to the plans of how it will be cleaned up and what we will see going forward, I think it's a great gateway property that we will have going forward. So happy to support this and look forward to the gateway property. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gibson. Councillors, we've had speakers, so I'm now going to put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself. Those opposed? Councillor Potter, Councillor Morgan. Councillors, I declare that motion, alternate motion, carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to... Oh, Councillor Potter. 10.1, yep. Next on the agenda is item 10. There's 5 items in this section. First item is 10.1 Quarterly Budget Report, March 2025, commencing on page 1207 of the agenda. Councillor Potter, I noted you.
I'd like to move this motion, please.
Moving Councillor Potter. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan. Do I have any opposition? Councillor Gibson. Okay, Councillor Potter, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor, and through you, I rise in full support of the accepting this budget report, and particularly the decision to allocate funds from the accumulated no, I can't say the word. The money reserved towards the construction of the new public toilet facility at Churchill Town Centre. The lack of 24/7 public toilet facilities at the Churchill CBD has been an ongoing issue for over 30 years. And I'm proud to continue the strong advocacy of those who have come before me, being the 3rd councillor from our ward to fight for this essential piece of community infrastructure. The situation became even more urgent in 2023 when the toilets at West Place were removed as part of the town centre's redevelopment, and since then the absence of public toilets has been a glaring gap in Churchill, now recognised as one of the 4 major towns. Having a major town centre without a public toilet facility is simply unacceptable. It impacts everybody. Access to safe, clean and accessible public amenities is a basic expectation of any modern and thriving community. Just last week, I actually experienced this firsthand. On my way home from work, I stopped in Churchill to do my grocery shopping, but when I arrived, the facilities at Hazelwood Village were already closed for the evening. So then I was faced with a decision. And to be quite honest, I had no choice. I had to then head home and that meant that I did not spend any money in Churchill on that night. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm hearing these stories all the time. People are now avoiding Churchill. They're going to do their shopping in other places just so they're not caught short. And this might sound like a small inconvenience to people who don't live, work or shop in Churchill, but it's really having a significant impact every day. A few months or even a few years delay might not seem much in the big picture, but when you're living it on the ground, when you're trying to run a business, trying to attract customers or simply wanting to shop local, it matters. It's hurting confidence, it's hurting local commerce and it's hurting the community. So I strongly encourage my colleagues to support this piece of important infrastructure for the business and for the residents of Churchill and the surrounding areas, because this project is more than just about convenience. It's about dignity, inclusion and making sure Churchill is a welcoming place at all hours of the day. So I commend the Council for recognising the importance of this investment and taking decisive action to address this long-standing need. The allocations of funds will deliver real tangible benefits for Churchill now and into the future. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillor Morgan, did you wish to speak or...
Question, please.
Councillor Gibson, a question? Yep.
What happened to the temporary toilet, please? Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yep, through you, Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I'll quickly pass that one to the General Manager, Mr Jody Riordan, Regional City Assets and Planning, if his microphone's working.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Hope you can hear me. Yeah. There's a temporary toilet, public toilet made available in the Hazelwood Shopping Centre during what I would suggest is normal business hours. Thank you.
Yep. Does that answer your question, Councillor Gibson? Yep, thank you. Councillor Morgan, do you wish to speak or reserve?
Reserve, please,
Reserve.
Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, you opposed?
I did. And it's not because I'm against the toilet, because I actually have family who live there. So I understand very well, and because I also want one in Ballara Avenue. So I do understand the issue about toilets. And if there wasn't something coming up in the confidential section that I believe will address all of this promptly, I would have a very different opinion too. But because that is coming up, I did have an alt, and that was to take the temporary toilet out of the equation and to put it to the quarterly review. Or it was, actually it was for when the completion of the sale of Hazelwood House occurs. So I understand Councillor Potter's views. I also understand very much about the toilet, but I don't believe that this will be an issue going forward, and I think it would be addressed timely, but a different way to what Councillor Potter is proposing. So if this doesn't get up, I would suggest I will move the alternate motion.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Morgan, you reserved.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm delighted to second this motion. Churchill needs a public toilet. We, the council, have unallocated funds to more than cover the cost of constructing a public toilet in Churchill. As Mrs Guthrie said earlier in tonight's meeting, we now have the opportunity to give the Churchill community a public toilet. It's a basic amenity for one of our major towns in a growing municipality. As Councillor Potter mentioned, it's about dignity, it's about accessibility, it's about making sure anyone who visits the township of Churchill has the ability to go to the toilet when they need. Let's not delay this decision any longer. Let's ensure everyone who visits Churchill has access to up to our standard public toilet facilities. We need to ensure our entire community, everyone who visits Churchill, has access to this very, very, very basic dignity. Let's give Churchill a public toilet.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. We've had opposition. Did you have a question? Sorry, Councillor Gibson, a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a really quick question. The public toilet, whenever we get it, would that be open just during normal business hours?
Mr CEO, to you.
It would, from my understanding of how we operate our other centres, they're open much longer than that in terms of normal business hours. So I'm not sure if some of them do close late in the evening, but that would be more accessible definitely than normal business hours.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had speakers against. Councillor Potter, would you like to close?
Yes, please, Mr
Done. Thought you
Mayor.
might.
And through you. So to also add to Councillor Gibson's question before, so when the Hazelwood Village toilets are closed, that includes Saturday afternoons and all day Sunday and any time after 5 p.m. So there's a lot of time when there is actually no access to a toilet whatsoever there. But to close, the money is there and it's ready to go right now. And so, you know, delaying, what are we waiting for? The sale of Hazelwood House, that's not a plan, that's actually a delay tactic. There's no guarantee of when the sale will happen, there's no guarantee the funds will come back to Churchill, and there's no guarantee that this problem is actually going to be solved by that sale. Meanwhile, every day we delay, our businesses suffer and our community loses confidence. Action's needed now, not promises of someday, maybe a little bit down the track, maybe next year. We really need to act on this quickly and now and get it started for our community. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillors, we've had speakers, so we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe. Those opposed? Councillor... You were for... Sorry, Councillor Campbell, missed your hand. Councillor Campbell. Those opposed? Councillor Pugsley, bear with me. Now I'm out of sequence. Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Gibson and myself. I declare the motion carried. Councillors, we now move on to item 10.2, Gippsland Regional Indoor Sports Stadium Project Reference Group nominations commencing on page 1240 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a motion? Oh, sorry, I've got a conflict on this one, sorry. I will leave the room and I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor. Too busy.
Yep, too quick to get on.
I reckon. It's cold out there. Okay, councillors. Item 10.2, Gippsland Regional Indoor Sports Stadium Project Reference Group nomination. Do I have a mover for the motion, please? Councillor Pugsley. Oh, hang on. Councillor Pugsley. Moving. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Potter seconding. Do I have any opposition? No. Okay. Councillor Pugsley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just briefly through you, Madam Chair. This item on the agenda is a simple appointment of a different councillor to sit on the GRIS committee, this councillor being Councillor Howe. On that basis, I'm happy to move for this item to be passed.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Potter, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve, thank you.
Okay, do I have a councillor who wishes to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Anyone wish to speak? No. Right back at you, Councillor Potter.
Very quickly, I think Councillor Howe will do a great job on this committee, as he does on all his committees, and he didn't pay me to say that.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. Since there's no opposition, you cannot speak again, Councillor Pugsley, but since we've had speakers, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe and myself, I declare the motion carried unanimously. And we'll just get the Mayor back in.
Councillors, we move on to item 10.3, establishment of a road, facility and place naming delegated committee, commencing on page 1255 of the agenda. Councillor Gibson, I note you.
Can I do a procedural deferment? Sorry. Can I do a procedural deferment for that, please?
Yep, so you're moving a procedural deferment. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howe. Sorry? Tim, we need to write up a motion to defer it, don't we?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, not a procedural deferment. I believe you would like us to address some of the questions that Mr De Souza Dore raised.
Yep.
And to enable us to do that, it wouldn't be procedural. We'd need to just have just a deferral, please.
Just a deferral?
Yep.
Procedural deferral brings back the same item.
All right. So it's what you want is an alternate motion to defer so that discussions can be okay. What we might do, councillors, is take a 5-minute break so that we can get an alternate motion written up. And for those online, yet again, we'll take a 5-minute break and be back at 8:07. Thank you. And welcome back. Councillor Gibson, you put up an alt before we went on the break. They've written it. Do you want to read it out for the council, please?
Okay, the council, 1, defer the establishment of the road, facility and place naming delegated committee, and 2, officers to provide an updated report at a future council meeting.
Thank you. You still happy to second that, Councillor Howe? Absolutely. Yep. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Councillor Gibson, did you wish to speak?
Just really quickly, as you note, that we had some issues that were brought up by one of the speakers tonight about this, about some issues that need to be dealt with. So this gives us a chance to look at that and come back with a further report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Howe, did you wish to speak? No. Do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillors, we've had speakers, so we need to put it to the vote. All those in favour of the alternate motion, Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself, I declare the alternate motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move on to item 10.4. Tourism and Major Events Advisory Committee recommendations, April 2025, commencing on page 1276 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Howe is moving. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Councillor Howe, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor, through you, just briefly. Always a pleasure to present to the council meeting the Tourism Major Events Advisory Committee recommendations. So this month, what the committee has asked the council to endorse is a second NBL game, in-season game for the 25-26 season. This involves an investment of $25,000 for an estimated economic return of $659,000. So return of investment of $26 for every $1 spent. This is always a high-profile event with sellout crowds. Some of the discussion in the report says possibility of creating a festival of basketball by having 2 NBL events in a week. Other ideas talking about a 3x3 regional tournament, an Indigenous and multicultural basketball celebration, some elite coaching workshops, referee development, basketball academy, and it goes on. So this strongly aligns with the Latrobe City and Events Tourism Strategy, the new one we've just endorsed. So I'm very happy to put it to the council group tonight. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Howe. Councillor Morgan, would you like to speak or reserve?
Reserve.
Reserve?
Please.
No worries. Councillors, have I got a speaker for the motion? Councillor Pugsley.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. By hosting this additional game, it facilitates more money to flow into our local economy while making professional sport more accessible to our local community. I believe that this investment offers a good return for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Morgan, would you like to close? Would you like to speak?
Yes, please. I'm very happy to second this motion to accept the recommendation of the Tourism and Major Events Advisory Committee. I think it's just a great opportunity for Latrobe City. It will create tourism, it will create economic impact. We will see crowds of people, as we have seen previously to this sort of level of basketball games in Latrobe already. It's just a wonderful opportunity to showcase our area, to showcase our assets, and to bring in more money to our local economy. So happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillors, we've had speakers, so we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move on to item 10.5, proposed change of date for the June 2025 council meeting and the scheduling of additional council meeting commencing on page 1290 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Pugsley. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Campbell. Do I have any opposition? No. Councillor Pugsley, would you like to speak?
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, I propose that we approve this as matters have come up since we all approved or the adoption of the meeting dates in our December council meeting, making several councillors unavailable for the original June meeting date that was proposed. In recognition of this, I'm happy to move that the June council meeting be moved by 1 week to the 30th of June to make sure that the majority of the councillors can attend. In addition, in addition to this, to ensure council meets our obligation under the Local Government Act 2020, there is a need to schedule in an additional council meeting for the 12th of May 2025 to adopt the 2025-26 council plan for publication. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak or reserve?
No, Mr Mayor.
No, you're right. Thank you. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? Do I have a speaker for the motion? Do I have any councillor wish to speak? Councillors, we've had speakers, so we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself. I declare that motion carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 11, councillors, which is urgent business. Councillors, do I have any urgent business? No. Okay, councillors, we now move on. Bear with me. For reports for noting, and there are no reports for noting, so we'll then move on to item 14, which is items for tabling. We have one item for tabling, which is item 14.1, updated internal audit charter, commencing on page 1300 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Campbell. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Councillors, do I have any opposition? Councillor Campbell, would you like to speak?
No, it's pretty straightforward, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Potter, did you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, do I have any opposition? Any councillor speaking for the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Councillors, we still need to put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself declare that motion carried unanimously. Next on the agenda is item 15, meeting closed to the public to consider confidential information under section 68(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020. Councillors, do I have a motion to conclude the open portion of the meeting and close the meeting to the public to consider confidential information? Councillor Gibson, are you moving?
Yes, please.
And Councillor Howe, are you seconding? Councillors, do I have any opposition? Do I have any councillor wish to speak? Declare them. Yep, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you for everyone coming. This is
Thank
quick and
you,
easy.
Councillor Campbell. Thank you, councillors. We'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson and myself declare the motion carried unanimously. To those members in the gallery that have hung around, thank you very much. To those online, thank you and good night, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you very much.